Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. It's always a joy to remind you that your greatest asset in life is the guidance you have from the Holy Spirit that is within you. Just encourage you every day to be in contact with that God Spirit within and allow it to be your guidance in life. If you're able to join us later on this evening, happy to have you for What is Light Body from 7 to 8:30. Let's begin. My dear friends, I have been moved by so many of you responding to last week's teaching on right speech, especially in the area of your self-talk, the everyday dialogue that goes on within your own mind. I was especially pleased to see how much the teachings, in a sense, concerning the areas of grumblings and the what-ifs found such resonance within so many of you. We will continue in the fourth area of the Eightfold Path. But let me make an initial statement. The statement, a quote, is this: "It lies only in our hands to perfect ourselves and gradually transform ourselves completely. It lies only in our hands to perfect ourselves and gradually transform ourselves completely." I love this statement because, first of all, it's simply the truth. It's the truth. It's in our hands. Everything we do, we create from our own reality, our own personal guidance. But also, the statement is not only truthful, but it provides the inspiration that all of us need in life to move forward. We have so many more joys to come. It simply takes our willingness to experience them. With this statement hopefully inspiring us, let us now turn to the fourth preliminary of getting our personality self in proper functioning order so that the personality self might become a fitting vehicle for our ascending spirituality. Today's topic is right conduct. Again, I will begin with a standard teaching, but then dig a little deeper to understand the two basic foundations of right conduct, and then conclude with a few practical remarks. Let's begin. When it comes to right contact, the Buddhist conception of such contact parallels other systems, especially from the external perspective. Thus, the Buddhist focuses on no killing, no stealing, and no unlawful sexual conduct, much in line with the traditional fifth, sixth, and seventh commandments, namely, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not commit adultery. And likewise, the more positive external conduct in all of the major traditions is pretty much to be kind, to be loving, and to be helpful whenever possible. While these externals, do's and don'ts, are very important, they cease to be, quite frankly, motivating factors for many of us who are in a 20th century, 21st century ascending spirituality. For many of us, the prescriptions of do's and don'ts have simply become increasingly irrelevant. These old ways are irrelevant because they are precisely this. They are old ways. They are old laws that no longer inspire us to transform. Rather than these old ways describing what you should or should not do, we who are growing spiritually, we see things differently in these two very simple but important ways. First, we are spiritually alive. We only want to do good. We want to be loving. We want to be kind. We want to be supportive. We desire to become better. And spiritually, we want to advance. That is, we really understand that it is in our hands to do so, to transform ourselves completely. And we want to do it. We don't have to be told, do this or don't do that. And secondly, quite frankly, we have realigned. We have reconnected to the Holy Spirit as our guide in life. We take the time to do our 7 daily spiritual practices, and we look forward each day to receiving the guidance of the Holy Spirit in our daily living. We are looking forward. We are looking forward to our spiritual growth, with the Holy Spirit leading the way, and hopefully that we will continue to conduct ourselves according to its guidance in our lives. We are not reluctant do-gooders. We want to grow. We want to evolve. We know that it's the pathway forward. So, presuming these 2 points to be absolutely true, it is important for us to ask, what then are the 2 foundational principles of right conduct? You have to know the principles in order to conduct yourself accordingly. In other words, what do we need to have in place so that our personality self will be happy to conduct itself appropriately? Please be attentive to these 2 principles. They are foundational. They are foundational for our spiritual future. The first principle is one that we are continuing to advance in, and yet demands consistent vigilance and attention. The first principle for right conduct is the principle of oneness. Now, we all know the theory of this principle, that everyone is created as a child of God, and that we are to love one another as Jesus directed us in the Gospels, to simply love as he loved. But there seems to be a disconnect. There's often a disconnect between the theory and the practice. Indeed, many people do love those who love them, but are not quite so good in loving everyone, to radiate a sense of openness and concern. Most people need something more by way of an inspiration. I believe that something more was very beautifully presented in the meaning of the crucifixion from A Course in Miracles. The meaning of the crucifixion of Jesus is not that Jesus has saved us from anything, but rather has given us guidance and teachings. The Course teaches that the meaning of the crucifixion is that no one is to be excluded from the oneness, even those people who are crucifying you as they did Jesus. Now, this incident gives us 2 very helpful teachings in this regard. The first one is that the example of Jesus being crucified is an extreme example. Probably none of us will ever face an angry mob trying to put us to death. And secondly, from the gospel, we hear these wonderful words of Jesus, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Those words are really inspirational for us, to forgive another because they're wrapped up in their own basic problems. We realize that it's the ignorance of many people. It's the ignorance of many people in lower energy that is the root cause of so many difficulties in life. Just need to say that again. We understand that it is the ignorance of many people in lower energy that is the root cause of so many of our difficult situations. Now, as helpful as these two teachings are, it is still a challenge for many of us to accept the conduct of others for this reason. Please listen attentively. We struggle with the concept of oneness because we focus on the low energy conduct of others rather than first, focusing on the principle of oneness within us. I'm going to repeat that again. The problem for so many of us is we begin by focusing on the low energy conduct of others rather than taking the time to focus on the oneness that all of us are children of the one Holy Spirit. This internal focus of oneness first is what Jesus taught us. This internal focus of oneness is what we all need to know, rather than initially focusing on the conduct of the other. Yes, it is very helpful not to take things personally, as one of the four agreements teaches, but what is really helpful and will be most effective in the long run is to meditate on the principle of oneness. To meditate on the principle of oneness, to feel this oneness within you. And then, and only then, will we be as understanding as Jesus was. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. No one is to be excluded from the kingdom. We got to get this message. We are quite capable of doing so. But first, we have to go within. Experience your oneness with everything, and then you will see. And then you will see the difference that it makes in your life. Again, we're quite capable of doing so. Perhaps, maybe rereading the chapter from A Course in Miracles. The chapter begins on page 91 in the text, page 91, and is appropriately entitled The Lessons of Love. The Lessons of Love. We are now ready to explore. We are now ready to explore the second foundational principle of right conduct. I will begin with two traditional statements of the principle and then proceed to a more wonderful contemporary explanation. The first two traditional statements. The first traditional statement that continues to be truthful even to this day is that very inspiring teaching of Jesus when he gave us these very profound words. The greatest among you is the one who serves the needs of others. That's true. That's true. These beautiful words pertain to parents raising kids, as well as to all professional servers, such as teachers, healthcare workers, and civic servants. These words are never to be underestimated, and we certainly need such committed people who responsibly serve the needs of others. The second traditional inspiration is also a very beautiful one, very important, and it's this teaching that is very necessary also in today's society. The second teaching concerns the Buddhist tradition of compassion, which gave rise to the description of the Buddha as the compassionate Buddha. Again, such displays of compassion continue to be a beautiful standard for those of us who are on a spiritual path. Very, very important. It's still necessary to hear those words of Jesus and the guidance of the compassionate Buddha. I think, however, that as important as those words are, that the approach presented in A Course in Miracles speaks more to a contemporary spirituality. Let me explain. In the traditional presentation of Jesus and the Buddha, the emphasis seems to be on the external action concerning another. In other words, on what you can do to assist them by helping them in a concrete situation. Let me again say, very important things in today's society. However, A Course in Miracles has a slightly different take, and I think a more aligned approach for our 21st century spirituality. This approach has two teachings. The first one is that we enter heaven here on earth with our brothers and sisters. Let me repeat that. We enter heaven here on earth with our brothers and sisters. Challenging. The emphasis clearly is not so much on what we can do for them, but rather on how we see them, on how we look upon others, which gives rise to the second teaching. The second teaching from the Course is simply called the Holy Encounter. The Course teaches that every encounter with another really depends on how you see the other, not so much what you can do for them. It depends on how you see the other. The Holy Encounter inspires us to see each other as a child of God, a part of the oneness. Such encounters surely will give assistance to those in need, but it first sees them as a member of our family. This thinking was the basis, quite frankly, for the motto of Now Creations. The good in me sees the good in you. Thus, even when others might not be seeing the good in themselves, we continue to see it and honor and respect it in them at all times. So let's now take a look at all three approaches. Whether the words of Jesus to be of service to others, or whether the compassion of Buddhism resonates within your heart, or whether you understand that every encounter is a holy encounter, as A Course in Miracles presents, here's the point. Here's the point. Examine the results of your right conduct. However you want to see it, service, compassion, encounter. Look at the results. The results on others, but primarily the result within yourself. See what happens to others when you respond to them in loving service or are compassionate or simply encounter them. But more so, feel what happens within you as you do so. Without having to think about it, you clearly feel the oneness that is generated by your conduct. There is a natural bond of love and goodness with all others. It's the way we have been created. I'm not saying this is easy, I'm just saying it's the truth. There's a natural bond of oneness with all others, with all of creation, because that's the way we've been created. That's why it's important to first come to know the energy of oneness. First, come to know the energy of oneness that has been stilled in all creation, rather than looking at the behavior of others or even the behavior of yourself in the past. See things from the top down, from oneness into multiplicity, rather than from the bottom up, seeing things from the multiplicity up to the oneness. For when you see things in multiplicity, it puts emotional and mental barriers in your conduct. We need to have those two principles firmly in place in order to proceed. Let me then now suggest 3 practical directions to your right conduct. The first one has to deal with your past. Perhaps in the past you were not quite as attentive to the possibilities of right conduct. A phrase that has been traditionally used is helpful for us. The phrase is sharing your time, talent, and treasure. Perhaps many of you have heard of this. And yet, perhaps in the past, you were stingy. You were stingy with sharing your time, sharing your talent, and sharing your treasure. Well, if so, if that was the case in the past, would you please let the past be precisely that, the past? What is important is what you will be doing from now on. Sharing joyfully your time, your talent. You're so talented, so many ways of being good, and treasure in right conduct. You have changed. You're different now. Do not allow the past to imprison you by continuing to focus on what you were then. But from now on, conduct yourself as the spiritual light that you are. The second practical consideration: have no pretense. No pretense. Have no pretense to the good that you do. Don't worry about what others might be thinking about you. Don't worry about impressing others. Don't even worry about the people whom you're helping. Just conduct yourself well for the joy of responding from the Holy Spirit within you. Remind yourself often of that statement so beautifully presented by Jesus in the New Testament. That statement that simply said, he went about doing good. Would you not say that that's what you're doing right now? Now, honestly, do you not go about doing good? Do you not look for opportunities to do good? You are doing good. You are doing good simply because It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do because you recognize that your conduct is based on the oneness of your alignment with the God energy. More and more, you are ascending to this realization that your conduct is in the God spirit. And I recognize and I applaud your efforts. The third principle. In addition to releasing your past and having no pretense except to simply do good, the third practical point of right conduct passes the threefold test of now creations. You know the test well, but you need to get the principles involved. First, right conduct makes logical sense. It has to make sense. Well, it does, because it is based on the recognition of the oneness of God with all creation and our participation in that oneness. Once you get the principles, it makes perfect sense. There's one universal energy in which we are participants. The second, right conduct feels right. Service feels right. Compassion feels right. The holy encounter feels right. All of these three feelings simply present the wisdom of oneness, and they inspire us to treat others in this energy. And of course, thirdly, this right conduct must work all the time. And we have to acknowledge there are times when you will need the wisdom. There are times when you will need the wisdom to know the difference between what must be accepted and the courage to change. But never doubt, your soul spirit will provide such a guidance for you if you consult with the results that profit everyone. Right conduct, guided by oneness, always feels right and always works. Got to get this into ourselves. Right conduct, guided by oneness, always feels right and always works. In conclusion, let me review the opening statement that I made, namely, it lies only in your hands to perfect yourself and gradually transform yourself completely. It lies only in your hands to perfect yourself and gradually transform yourself completely. Such a teaching depends on your right conduct. We are delighted that now creations has become such an inspiration for such right conduct. And especially we have become so because of your right conduct, which we will continue to conduct together. Let me now bring you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. Just nice, easy breathing. Just nice, easy breathing. It's always been fairly easy to love those who love you. And most of us would do precisely that. We would like those who liked us, and perhaps disregard those with whom we felt some contention. That was before. This behavior was before the deeper understanding of life. Before, we didn't understand our own oneness with our Creator. We didn't understand our oneness with our Creator. And then, of course, we didn't understand the oneness of everyone else from the Creator. We didn't understand that. That what we really didn't understand, what we really didn't understand was the low energy we would sink into. When we disliked others and felt separated from them. We didn't understand. We just took for granted the low energy that we sank into. I don't like them. I just don't like them. We didn't understand the effect of that low energy on you, yourself. I just don't like them. We didn't understand the low energy that puts you into at the moment. And then would often cause resentment for many days and even weeks later on. We didn't understand how we became victimized by our own separation. We didn't understand it. Members and families not talking to each other. People holding grudges for years. We didn't understand. But now we do. Now we do understand. We know that. There's incredibly understanding words of Jesus that the people don't know what they're doing. Pretty much described us. We didn't know what we were doing. But we do now. Those of you who are on a distinctly spiritual path realize that right conduct has less and less and less to do with the conduct of others, and more and more and more on how you conduct yourself. This was not meant to be a shame or a guilt trip by any means. Get over that. But it is meant for you to understand yourself and everyone else. But most of all, yourself. Not about giving other people a get out of jail free card for their conduct or becoming a doormat. None of that. It's a matter of how you see someone. And if how you see someone is problematic for you, it is a problem for you. It's important to apply the principles to see them better so that you can be better. Good teaching from A Course in Miracles. We enter heaven here on earth. Just working to make every encounter a holy encounter. Seeing the other in the oneness. It lies only in our hands to perfect ourselves and gradually transform ourselves completely by right conduct. And in this energy, would you just look at the rest of your day? What a wonderful opportunity to conduct yourself lovingly with family, friends, neighbors, with whomever, or by yourself. Just know that you're in the flow of the loving presence, and the Holy Spirit is your guide. So in that energy, let me invite you to move back into your breath, happy to be in the oneness, not just with those of us here, but with all others. Just happy to be in the oneness, knowing the joys that that offers us, and just gently breathing your eyes open. We all need this teaching. Makes us all better. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us.
Thank you, Vance. It was beautiful.